let's think about it this way. I don't want to manifest anything. Let's alternate timeline has skewed off. It is now Stephen A. Smith who's in a field in Pennsylvania, and it's him who has a fragment of glass strip his ear. Can you imagine if Stephen A. Smith survived an assassination attempt? He would be on First Take the next morning. This is preposterous. Like the shit that we would hear from him would be crazy.
You'd walk into the studio with a cowboy hat on, like the Cowboys just lost. Take it off, and you see the Band-Aid on his ear.
Do you know that Shane Gillis bit about funniest president to be assassinated?
Yeah.
Even with that title immediately.
Yeah, 100%. So if it's through the lens of that, I don't want him to get killed, but I want Stephen A. Smith to survive an assassination attempt just for the content. I would give you that.
Yeah, that's fucking funny. No, my logic is just that, like, Democrats won't say anything even remotely contentious, and he will. He was talking about, like, his biggest political belief on some show, and he was like, yeah, lobbying should be dead. We should get rid of that, which you won't hear Kamala Harris being like, we shouldn't have lobbyists anymore because all of her friends get paid by them.
You know who has said that in the past?
Bernie Sanders.
That's exactly right, Jacob. That is right, isn't it? Huh? He did say that. Interesting.
He did say that. And then guess what they did? They made sure his ass did not get elected. Indeed.
Curious, isn't it?
All right. Let's talk about basketball now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shootaround. I am formerly a host of this podcast, currently only producer, Rudy St. Clair, and joining me, as is tradition, below me today is the one and only Jacob Rusty Buckets, the best baseball player I know, Nick, a.k.a. Motown Noah, and the legendary AlexHoops. We are going to be correcting our tier list from a couple weeks ago, pre-trade deadline, about where everyone stands in the contender picture of the NBA. And now that a lot has changed, it's time for us to make some changes. I think we should start off with the obvious one. The Lakers probably go from very dark horse to a lot better, and the Mavericks probably go down, because this is our first podcast since the Luka trade. Fellas, who wants to open up that can of worms first?
I'll say this about the Mavericks. I think at this point, they got to just worry about making the playoffs, because Derek Lively is out, for the entire season at this point? He's not going to be back. Daniel Gafford he has a knee sprain. Anthony Davis. Here's my thing with the Anthony Davis injury. They're being very cagey about it. I am pretty confident that his injury is a lot worse than they're letting on. I think he's going to need surgery. And they're waiting to announce it because the big pile of poop that they currently have sitting on their desk that they have to deal with, they're just trying to get that off the desk before they're like, oh, by the way, he's out for the season, guys. We just traded Luka Doncic for a player that is now going to require surgery. Yeah. So they're waiting. I think they're waiting for the All-Star break when they can kind of hide behind like a Mac McClung dunk contest and Kevin Hart as the on-court MC, and they can be like, oh, by the way, Anthony Davis isn't going to be back until January 2026. Sorry.
A news dump.
And then they just go back under their rock.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently,
exactly.
My understanding was that he played hurt. Like, the first game that he played, he wasn't supposed to be back until the All-Star break, and then he played and made it worse. Because there was just
didn't look
all
hurt,
that
I will
pressure.
say that.
No, he looked damn good, but there is this pressure because of the trade going down. They were like, well, if we show them our shiny new Anthony Davis, maybe things will subside. And then they made shit worse for themselves.
Have you guys ever gotten a new phone and
once or twice?
You're really excited about this new phone, but you got to get a case for it first. You got to get a screen protector, and you walk out of the store and you're excited about this new phone, and you walk out of the store. You maybe get home first, and you drop the phone and you crack the heck out of the screen, just completely shatter it, and this brand new phone is Anthony Davis. They dropped Anthony Davis on the floor, and now he's broken. They didn't have time to get a case. They didn't get a screen protector on him.
Yeah.
Just gets
Not
worse.
Great. Not great. When you look at the construction of the Mavericks roster, you go, hey, it's a pretty good team. It's one of the better rosters in the NBA with everybody healthy. But Are they going to be healthy?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
Probably not.
Well, I don't know. Am I being crazy here that, like, Alex, you mentioned they just need to focus on making the playoffs. Do they need to focus on that? Are we sure that that's what they need to focus
That's the
on?
West, man.
Well,
Right.
that's a good point. I mean, they're kind of just, hey, let's see how good of a draft pick we could get.
Their
Right.
place in the seeding was not high enough that it's like, well, they're definitely making the playoffs. So
Mhm.
shit, man. I don't fucking know. I mean, if they can get in there and then, like, theoretically Anthony Davis gets in at the last second, I don't know, maybe that puts them in very dark horse, but that's about it.
Did you guys see the clip of Mark Cuban telling the fans to sit the fuck down and to shut the fuck up?
I did not.
No, I didn't see it. I read like the transcript of what happened or whatever.
Yeah, there was some fans, sitting behind the basket who were, sell the team, fire, Nico, just all the bells and whistles. Mark Cuban sitting in his usual seat, hears that, stands up, locks eyes, and is like, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down. And I'm like, brother, you don't really have a pass on this whole thing. And even though you are not a majority owner anymore, you are still complicit because you sold the team and acknowledged that the people that you were selling it to were not basketball people. So, like,
Right.
I don't know. It's crazy. Like, we definitely haven't acknowledged, I think, as a culture, Mark Cuban's piece in this whole thing yet, just because he has been viewed so favorably for so long. Also, because he's not directly attached to the team anymore, it's like, I don't know if people are, it's just not a dot.
I mean,
that people are
he
connecting
very
right now,
clearly
but-
was not a fan. He said that he cried after the
sure.
trade. Apparently, he wanted to marry Luka Doncic. So clearly, yeah, I don't know. But at the same time, you can't stand on that position where you're like, I hate this, but also I'm going to defend everybody.
Right.
Like, that's not your job. Just sit there and listen to it. If I was in his shoes, I'd be like, yeah, fire Nico. Fuck that guy. He traded my baby boy.
Yeah, and then Nico Harrison was at an SMU basketball game, and he was sitting right next to the student section, and the student section started chanting at a fucking college basketball game.
I would
started
never
chanting "Fire Nico."
I would never go outside again if I were
No.
that guy. I'm never going in public anymore.
He needs one of those things where it's like the thick glasses and a mustache, and it's like the fake nose.
So like some fucking
Because
Mr.
no one would
Potato Head
recognize
glasses. Yeah,
Right, exactly. That's all he needs.
Nico Harrison in his like Clark Kent era. And they're like, "Who's this guy? We really like this guy," but underneath the mask, he's still Nico Harrison.
It's just
yeah, I
two like toddlers in a trench coat.
Yeah.
On each other's shoulders.
I really
Nico
like
Harrison.
how in that clip where he was getting booed, he sat down and he was like, "Are they booing me?"
Are they booing me? Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I do, guys?
They're mad at me. And then, because Rudy, you're talking about the owner going to his seat. And there was also, on his way to his seat, there was like a kid who, I don't know if he like dapped him up or like shook his hand or whatever the fuck it was. He said something to him. And I just wonder if it was like charged or if the guy was like bootlicking and was like, "I love you because you're the owner." I don't know why he would do that.
I think
but
he decided to ride the line and fake bootlicking while like the subtext of it was like, "Fuck you, buddy. I don't mean any of
Right.
this." But like he didn't want to be rude, so he was like, "Hell yeah, I'm a Mavs fan. You can tell from my jersey."
Mhm.
And
I
just
guess-
shook his hand a little too hard or something.
And then, yeah, gave him a little, like he had it, like he had like a fake stick of gum. Remember that? And you get shocked. You go, this isn't that. Okay, there we go. You guys get it now. He's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
Dumont, you want a piece of gum?" So here's my question. So a couple of months ago, right before the deadline, we were talking about Jimmy in Miami. And I was like, I think it's weird that we haven't seen the Jimmy Butler fallout yet. Like that hasn't happened. And then rest assured, all I had to do was wait. And then it eventually did happen. Here's my question. We've seen Kyrie like be kind of, some type of way in the past for like a few different franchises.
Mhm.
He seems like he's pretty grounded on this whole thing. Where's the Kyrie like going nuts
He's
thing?
just
You
a
guys
chill
think that's
guy.
gonna
I
happen?
don't know
Yeah, I
what's
think
going
that's
on.
he's just in a different phase of his life. He just doesn't. It's just
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know how to
30
describe
now.
it.
He doesn't have
Yeah.
time for those shenanigans anymore. I don't know. Maybe there's a part of him that's like, hell yeah, man. I'm ball handler number one again.
You think? Because
I
But he
don't
really
know.
liked Luca.
Yeah,
Every
that's why he was
indication was
there.
that he
Right.
loved Luca.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, but he also is typically not someone who hides how he's feeling. So the fact that we haven't gotten anything,
That's what I'm saying.
was off-putting to me. To me, my impression is that they went into the Mavericks locker room and they were like, if Luka can be gone, you guys can be gone too. So nobody better say shit.
Yeah, but at that point, like, okay, you're not gonna, if you cut me, I'm gonna get picked up by another team, or you just trade me somewhere. You know what I mean? That just wouldn't be a deterrent for me if I really wanted to get my shit off about how I was feeling.
That also seems like something that would trigger Kyrie into acting up.
Right? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
he
some
also
folks out
had
there-
a free Gaza wristband after the deadline as well, just for what that's worth. So that's how he's choosing to disrupt things.
waiting until after the deadline to do that is the funniest shit in the world. Yeah.
Doesn't the Mavs ownership have like some?
No, they're
very
Zionists.
bad
They
ties?
just straight up are very pro-Israel.
Jeez.
So
You gotta put a Shake Shack in the arena. Yeah, you probably gotta put the Mavs at the bottom, probably over for them this season. Because like, okay, let's just do a quick scenario before we move on to the Lakers piece of this whole thing. So I know we're gonna spend a lot more time on them. Okay, what are we saying about Nico Harrison if the Mavs somehow end up with Cooper Flag?
Okay, so this is something I wanted to bring up.
I don't even think they can.
Well, I don't think
They get in the lottery.
mathematically it is technically possible.
Like
They would have to
2% chance
lose.
type shit, though.
They would have to lose like every single game for the rest of this season. They wouldn't have to, but that's like, to have a realistic shot, they would need to lose every single game.
That's not true, because the fucking Pelicans had they won like 35 games the year that they got
That
signed.
shit was
they
rigged.
had like a 1.5% chance, and that's why it's the lottery. Like the Hawks last year, weren't they in the fucking play-in, and then they lost, and then they ended up getting the number. You know what I mean? So like having a bottom 5 record in the NBA, history would suggest that is not actually the best way, quote unquote, to win the lottery. Yeah. I don't want to say more often than not, but more often than you would think, it is a team that you would have otherwise thought had no shot to get a top 5 pick that does end up securing it. Obviously, in this instance, yes, they would have to end up with the number 1 pick. It is a long shot, but in recent history, it's not unprecedented.
Right, but there's like, my whole thing is there's 13 teams that have a worse record than the Mavericks right now.
Okay,
we're talking like 2% chance of winning the lottery. But yes, I agree. Crazy things have happened, so it's not impossible.
So then, just really quick, are we thinking? I know we don't know for sure how Cooper Flag's going to be. He's not going to be better than Luka, I think, is ultimately what it's going to be. But is there going to be a spin zone where you're going to have a sect of NBA fans be like, "Wow, very forward thinking by Nico Harrison," even if it was up to chance, anyways? Or are people just going to hate this forever, which they should?
They're going to hate it forever. They're going to be like, look, we got a shiny new white boy and this one plays defense, and they're just going to boo in response.
Right. And he's in shape, and he's an all-American boy. He went to Duke and all of this shit. Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite conspiracy trying to justify the Luka trade was that Jason Kidd was fully in on it along with ownership, and Nico was covering for him in the press conference, saying that he wasn't in on it just for his own image, because Jason Kidd's whole track record very much consists of signing off on a type of move like this, or the type of character that would, allow for him to be like, yeah, this is a great idea, even though he's like motherfucking Luka Doncic. Yeah. I would like to be more powerful within this organization than anyone on the floor. So by all means, please get this kid out of here. We'll contend next year. I don't know, whatever.
Dude.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
That press conference.
He's a very
the
Nets
fucking
or the Bucks.
Great actor. Jason Kidd is a great actor if that was acting. He looked like he was doing everything in his power not to just choke Nico right then and there.
Yeah.
I have one last question about the Mavericks before we move on. How do we feel about Kyrie being back in the lead ball handler creator role? Because that was the big thing to me. Obviously, Anthony Davis comes with his own amount of offense, but like going from Luka being my lead playmaker to Kyrie is such a comically large downgrade. Kyrie is a functional playmaker, whereas Luka is a generational one.
That's you, Alex. He just passed you the ball.
I mean, I feel like it's Kyrie Irving. Like, We know what he can do. Like this to me, there's not like you said it yourself. He's a functional playmaker. He's not a generational playmaker. It's like, yes, Kyrie Irving can be a point guard. Are you going to get everything out of him that you would expect from like the point guards of today's NBA, the Trey Youngs, strictly in terms of playmaking? I'm not talking scoring because we know that Kyrie can score at literally any level. I'm talking about overall playmaking, defensive manipulation, like generating open shot after open shot. It's like, yeah, going from Luka to Kyrie is obviously a downgrade in terms of playmaking. But you know, I think the sacrifices, the goal of this trade, if you're trying to look at it from a theoretical basketball perspective, the goal of this trade was not, oh, the offense is going to get better because we're getting rid of Luka Doncic and bringing in Anthony Davis. They knew the offense was going to get worse. That's just how it is. Like, yeah, that's a known sacrifice. They're betting on the defense being raised enough to where, oh, all of a sudden the Mavs defense is a top 5 defense and the offense is good enough to still be like 12th or 13th best in the NBA, which is like fine. And I think Kyrie Irving is good enough of a player to where like, yeah, you're not going to get everything out of him that you would have gotten from Luka Doncic as your lead playmaker, but Kyrie Irving is still a good enough of a scorer. He's still a good enough of a facilitator and orchestrator to where you can be a above average offense, no doubt in my mind. And that's not even factoring in the Anthony Davis of it all, where you have him being able to do what he was doing in the first half of that game before he got hurt. And so it's like, yeah, this trade, if you're trying to spin it in a basketball way, wasn't really about what Kyrie Irving could or couldn't do for you offensively.
I do like that AD is playing the 4 again. That's fun.
I think he likes it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think I said last thing and then Jacob said last thing. For real, unless Alex has one last thing, if this trade happens and instead of Luka, it was Kyrie that went to the Lakers, everything about the trade is the exact same. I don't know if the salaries would have made sense, but if it's Kyrie instead of Luka, is this a good trade? Is this a bad trade? It's a good trade?
It's a good trade.
Okay.
It's a great trade.
Actually, the Lakers would have gotten fucked in that deal because then they would have just been, that would have been a horrible deal for the Lakers. They would have never have done that.
Imagine
I guess we should add the
lobbing
caveat
into
that it's a
Anthony
good trade for the Mavericks.
Just for Dallas, yeah. And I think just comparatively to what we've seen. So I just, so one last thing on this trade. Do you guys still find yourselves at least once a day? We're about, almost 2 weeks removed from it happening. By the time this releases, we're 2 weeks removed from it happening. Once a day, are you still going
what the fuck?
What the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Do you want to know something crazy?
Mm-hmm.
So my wife watches basketball with me sometimes. But like this trade is so like paradigm shifting that like my grandmother-in-law was interested in watching Luka's debut, which is bizarre because I've got a lot of family members who are like, they're big college basketball people, but they're not like NBA people. They do the same like talking points where they're like, they don't play defense in the NBA, which is just ridiculous. I just send them that Ben Taylor vid that just came out. But like this trade is so wild because it's getting people to care about basketball, the NBA basketball that just in my life that just don't care about NBA basketball. And they understand like the gravity of it, which is why I'm like, yes, to answer your question, 2 weeks removed for it or what, not 2 weeks, over a week now removed from it. And it's like, well, I guess we're still under a week. Well, no, almost exactly.
By the time this comes out, it'll be 2 weeks.
This is not real.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing. So people try to put this trade into. They try to quantify it in terms of like like pop culture terms or something like that, or like for if you have a significant other in your life who does not watch basketball and you don't know how to quantify it for them. Imagine if this is the way that I've had it in my head. It's the middle of the 2010s. One Direction trades Harry Styles for Nick Jonas.
And the Jonas Brothers are kind of done at this point, so it's like, what do you do?
Exactly. I thought maybe this would land a little bit harder with you guys. You guys can give a shit
or
about
like,
boy bands.
No, I'm
AJ
all
and
in.
Big
You got
Justice
me.
trade the Rizzler for the Hawk Tour. What?
They liked it. You had a good joke. They liked it.
Yeah.
I was just making sure everyone understood the gravity of that.
Yeah.
We all know
That'd be a big deal.
Shit. Yeah. I saw my girlfriend was getting Instagram reels about it, and I was like, I know your ass is not watching basketball, but this is going into the like alt girl timeline.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. I love the idea, just to backtrack on something Alex said about like you have like an elderly person in your life, somebody in their 70s who's like, oh, this, that, and the third about the NBA. And you send them a 45-minute thinking basketball video, and you're like, just watch this. And they're like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna watch.
I was laughing because I've done that.
I don't actually do that.
I do.
That'd be so nerdy.
My
That's
dad
crazy.
will drop those old man talking points. I'm like, Dad, just listen to Ben Taylor. He knows better than you and I.
Oh, that's Ben Taylor? Okay, so when you said that that's thinking basketball, that's who that guy is?
Yeah.
What is he? Does he a former coach? Like, what's his deal? I've never known.
It's just like
I think
He
he's
wrote
just
a book
really
called
smart
Thinking Basketball that
guy.
sold very well.
So, okay, he wrote a
can make
book.
Yeah.
So he's just Brian Windhorst. Because I
he
remember
wrote a book, and then he was like, I'm a YouTuber now.
Oh, okay. I
And he's
remember
also
Brian
he also,
partnered
like-
with the NBA now.
Yeah. What else, Alex?
He also like created his own stats that have become very prevalent in the NBA space, like box creation, which is like a playmaking stat. It's an estimate of how many open shots you generate for your teammates per 100 possessions. He like created that stat, and it's like widely used now.
I bet Timothy Chalamet's got a
Nerdy
pretty
stuff.
high box creation.
Let's talk about the Lakers. I think they need to be moved all the way up from very dark horse to potential contenders. I think that's an easy they got supremely better, even if the fit is a little bit more clunky in theory.
Luka is one of those guys that's like, if you have him, I can see you winning just about.
It's
any
why the
series.
Mavericks were in potential contenders.
It's why you
2
don't
weeks
trade
ago.
him. Just
Yeah. Yeah, well, like, it's crazy because I'm so prisoner of the moment right now after watching that debut, where I'm like, I'm not putting them in true contenders, but they're on the line. I think out of all of the people in that second tier, I think that they're the closest right now. Because, like, I'm watching a Lakers team that, first of all, even before Luka had gotten here, they were like, they've been on a heater for the last couple games. LeBron has been playing out of his mind this month.
Yeah.
And you watch him out there and playing with Luka, and you see him with like a reinvigorated, like, I don't know, he's playing like lockdown defense for like 3 possessions in the fourth quarter. You're like, who the fuck is this? What's happening to LeBron?
My guess is he kind of checked out on the idea that he was going to win a championship again in his career. And then this went down. He was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I could do it again. Bet. I'm back.
Well, I
just
wonder
kind
if
of playing meaningless basketball, and now there's a meaning.
I wonder if some of it too is like, and you two will have better language for this than me, but so I'm gonna give you guys I'll give you guys the push, and then you guys can start running with it. Okay. I'm wondering, is it like something that has to do with now that Luka's there and LeBron does not have to be the ball handler, the facilitator on every single offensive possession, he can reserve some of that energy for defense because Luka's fucking fat ass isn't gonna play it. You get what I'm saying? Am I right about that in some sense?
I would say in theory, yes, your logic checks out. There's been a noticeable shift over the last couple of years, this year specifically, in terms of how much the Lakers are running the offense through LeBron James, and like how much is LeBron actually like having to do everything on any given offensive possession. They've kind of moved away from that. Their offense is a lot more varied than that. I think that's somewhat of a byproduct of JJ Redick as a coach. So yes, what you're saying makes sense. I do think there is some extent to which LeBron's just not going, like, he can turn it on for a handful of like key possessions where it really matters for him to play defense. But for the most part, he's probably going to, rely on positioning and institutional knowledge to remain a neutral to slight positive on the defensive end. And then offensively, it's like, yeah, sometimes he's just going to be camped in the corner because he's 40.
Yeah.
I watch a guy like Austin Reeves put the headband on, and I'm like, take that shit off. But with how he's been playing recently,
Yeah, he's
I'm
been
like,
cooking too.
you can wear whatever you want, dude. Austin Reeves rules. I can't believe it. I haven't been a hater or like a skeptic, but I've just been like annoyed because I don't know what it is. I'm just like, you're not supposed to be good. But he is, and so I'm like, you can spend all your VC on fucking accessories, brother. He looks like it's crazy psychologically what happens to me when I watch a guy wear a headband and go like 2 for 10 versus when Austin Reeves puts up like, what was it last week, 45, 7 and 7 or whatever the hell it was, and then it makes sense and it looks cool. I don't know. I'm suddenly I'm late to this, but I'm suddenly a big Austin Reeves guy.
Alex, you and I have something in common from this past trade deadline as fans of the number 1 and 2 seeds, respectively, in the West, in that neither of our teams decided to open their pocketbooks and send 2 first-round picks for Cam Johnson. He is still a net. A bit of an L for Brooklyn on that front.
Yeah, I hate that.
So with that being said, I'm going to move my Grizzlies, who instead traded away 2 guys to open up their pockets for next season, down to dark horse because we gave up a little bit of depth. And now we're a little bit more fragile. Ja doesn't so much stink as so much as he's like.
We gotta have a conversation. It's
Ja
time.
kind of stinks.
Yeah,
There
gotta
are
have a
many
conversation.
Many such cases. People saying that John Morant kind of stinks.
You know, when he didn't fucking stink was last night on national TV against the Suns. You know,
I've seen people comparing him
he
to
played
Austin
very well.
Reeves. I've seen Austin Reeves comps.
Yeah,
We're very far from the SGA
yeah,
comps.
and shout out to Isaac, but on the recent Project 94 YouTube short where they ranked big threes, they had 8 spots and the Grizzlies didn't even make one of them, and I felt a fire burning inside of me to let them know that they're wrong, because we certainly have one of the best big threes in basketball still, even if Ja Morant is recovering from injuries, getting nagging injuries, not getting calls, choosing not to dunk, and not running pick and rolls. Still just fine, because we can always flip the switch and run a pick and roll offense, and suddenly Ja is Ja, minus the dunks because he's protesting.
Big three is a term that's been bastardized. Straight up.
Austin Reeves is
People
not part of
throw
the big
shit
three.
around.
I'm sorry.
When Kyle Kuzma went to the Bucks, I saw who's stopping this big three. Dame, Giannis, and Kyle Kuzma. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Big three.
So yeah, for that reason, I'm moving the Grizzlies down. We're still a dark horse contender for sure. Second tier in the West. In fact, I would put us well above everyone in the dark horse tier, like by far the best dark horse, but still ultimately a dark horse. Alex, I don't think your Thunder need to move down a tier though, unlike my team.
No.
I don't think so either.
Not
I
the
think
same
they're all right.
conversation.
Real quick, I don't want to get too far away from the Ja Morant conversation, because I do think, Rudy, try to take the homer hat off and we can have like a sincere conversation about this. Like, you got to have some level of concern, because yes, I do think there are schematic reasons that you can attribute some of Ja Morant's struggles to. Yes, the injury stuff, that's all valid, but that is stuff that's been a concern for Ja since the beginning of his career. That's something everyone always said with him, was he's a guy who, he has a ton of athleticism, but his knees are going to be cooked by the time he's 26. And I'm not saying that is what's happening. Obviously there's been stuff over the years that he's missed games and probably gotten out of game shape, and it's impacted his ability to keep his conditioning up to snuff. But that doesn't excuse the, he hasn't developed as a perimeter shooter. The overall efficiency has gone down, even though his teammates have gotten better and he doesn't have to deal with as much defensive attention anymore. I'm not out on Ja Morant, but I am a little concerned, because what he used to be is a far cry from what he is.
Right. To me, I'm not really concerned about like injuries and like his peak being shorter than what it potentially could have been because of injury related reasons. I think it's more of a micro thing where he's just had a nagging shoulder injury for eons now. And he's also actively choosing not to dunk all the time, so we just see a lot less Ja highlights, even if they're missed dunks, you know. So like his name isn't in our mouth as much, especially because his playtime is kind of spotty, and the offense has gone from being built around Ja's success to having to work in spite of Ja's play style, because he's, in my opinion, number 1 or number 2 pick and roll ball handler in basketball right now. It's like him or Trey Young, and the numbers reflect that. His last fully healthy season, he was the most frequent number 1 pick and roll ball handler in the NBA, and he was getting MVP votes because of it. And now we run an offense that is 2 or 3 standard deviations below the average NBA team's pick and roll frequency. We basically never do it, and we basically only do it because we have Ja Morant on the floor. And for that reason, he is now basically just exactly where his career averages are at, a little bit lower on the efficiency, and playing a career low in minutes, if I'm not mistaken, definitely under 30 minutes a game, but still getting 20 points, 7 assists, shooting up significantly above 30% from the field. I think he's down to like 44. Let me look. I have the numbers right here. Yeah, he's down to 44% from the field from, 49% at his peak in year 3 when he won Most Improved, or the year after that when he averaged 1 point fewer per game when he was at 46. So there's some major adjustments that's been going on, a nagging injury, but at the end of the day, I'm not worried about Ja Morant on the floor. I'm more worried about like off the floor mentality wise, if he is okay buying into a system that isn't built around making him the most successful player on the team. Because right now that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson is the top 10 player in basketball this season. Kind of inarguably, he's getting MVP hype right now, like bottom of the ladder, but it's there. And normally Ja would be that type of guy, and now it's Jaren.
Yeah, I don't see why that has to be as conflicting as it is. Like, oh, my big man is the star of the team right now, and my guard is the best pick and roll player, one of them in the NBA. I feel like those go together rather than clashing, but hasn't been the case. They go to, like, Jaren ISOs a lot, which I'm glad that Jaren has developed that aspect of his game, but I fear that it has now become too much a part of it, to an extent, where I'd rather just see Ja get a little bit more involved, because Ja is not the type of player who benefits from having less ball handling opportunities. He needs the ball in his hands as much as possible when he's on the floor.
Yeah, and he needs a Brandon Clark or a Zach Edey screen to create some space and advantages on pick and rolls. Like, it's an elementary basketball player that we can break out at any time in the playoffs if, we need more consistent offense than our hyper-European, super spacey, no screen situation that we got right now, running 5 out all the time. Like, I'm just eager to see exactly how our playoff rotations and schemes work, because right now this team has been built for the regular season, and part of that includes Ja Morant's numbers going down. So as long as he's healthy and all signs are pointing towards no off-court disasters at any point during the season, or Ja Morant doesn't just like check out in April and decide, maybe Memphis isn't for me anymore, I think we still have a very good shot among the dark horses, but not as good of a shot as if we sent Marcus Smart and 2 picks for Cam Johnson.
All right. So let's touchstone on the rest of these teams. It makes sense that the Luka stuff got a large majority of the run. I guess we can just run through our contenders. The Cavaliers traded for DeAndre Hunter, gave up practically nothing to do it, so they're still staying in the category they're at. Celtics arguably should have made a trade, but it wasn't important enough that it knocks them out of the true contender category. Same goes. I don't think the Knicks really needed to make a deal, and they didn't.
No.
Well, they got rid of Jericho Sims.
Oh. I don't know if I would have been trading
deal.
a center
Pretty
if
big
I were
deal.
them. I don't know. Even if Jericho Sims isn't good, it's still a guy who can play the 5, but doesn't change them for me. The Bucks, Kyle Kuzma from Chris Middleton. How do we feel about that one?
I was sad about it just from the breakup piece of the whole
Right.
thing. He spent 12. That part of it was just hard, I think, for Bucks fans. I don't have a problem with Kuzma. I mean, if he's the Kuzma that he was for the Lakers, then we don't have a problem here at all. For the Wizards, I never even thought. It was just that he played for the Wizards. So I don't know what the problem is. I don't know about it in terms of like, well, even Chris Middleton, I don't know, when he's played, he's been fine, but for the last 2.5 years, is he not just out all the time?
I mean, he's definitely not as common for him to play as it used to be. That's for damn sure. But if you're just looking at the on-the-court production this season, looks to me like Chris Middleton was a better player than Kyle Kuzma. I think the logic of the Kuzma deal was both financial, but also like the Bucks in 2021 when they won their championship were at their best when PJ Tucker was on the floor playing power forward and Giannis was at center. They shredded every time they used those lineups. And I think their logic is that Kyle Kuzma can be just like a more versatile version of PJ Tucker. But we also haven't seen Kyle Kuzma playing basketball that means anything in quite a while. So it's kind of hard to gauge how ready he is to do that.
Can you imagine how funny would it have been if the everybody's clamoring for the league to step in and veto the Luka trade, and then for some reason, I don't know, if something weird happened with the one that they actually nix ends up being the Kuzma trade. They're like, he can't go to Milwaukee. How funny would that be?
Pretty funny. I don't know.
I didn't like it as I was delivering it. I didn't think it was very funny.
Yeah. Sorry.
It was funnier in my head.
It'd get a chuckle out of me.
Nah, shut up. It wasn't funny.
No, I'm saying the news that it would happen would be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So Bucks. I mean, I thought it was funny that the Mark Williams trade was the one that got walked back because the
Lakers are dumb though. They gave up so much for a guy that doesn't play games.
No, I think the Lakers dodged a bullet. I think
they
getting out of that
100%
trade
did.
was very good for them. I liked the idea of it, but I was like, is Mark actually going to play? If he is, it would be great. But is he?
Right. They're going to be 3 games into the second round of the playoffs. Mark Williams hasn't played in 3 weeks, and they're going to be like, damn, Dalton Connect would have been really nice right now.
Well, it's not even just that. The assets for the offseason.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
Multiple draft picks and shit.
For sure. So this summer, if I'm a Laker fan, I'm just like, let's do that again, but with like Jalen Durant or something like that. You know what I mean?
Nick Claxton.
Yeah, or Nick Claxton. That's a good one, too.
Yeah.
Alex,
you know what was funny? Well, it wasn't funny. It was kind of just interesting. Like, Dalton Connect was on the bench during the Luka debut, and this was after the Mark Williams trade got nixed, obviously. And he just he looked so despondent, and I felt very bad because I think it's one thing to get traded to a team that the Lakers drafted Dalton Connect. They made him feel pretty empowered as a player early. They made him an integral part of the team, and they asked a lot of him, and he was delivering. I looked at his numbers the other day, and obviously defensively, Dalton Connect is what he is. Hopefully he gets better, but offensively, he hits his shots, and he's a good cutter, and he's a fun player. But it's one thing to get traded by a team that believes in you and you believe in them. It's another thing to do the snip, snap back and forth where you get traded and then you have to go back because the trade got rescinded, and you walk in and it's like, hey guys, I'm back.
Isn't it? I think
you
it's
tried
more
to get
awkward
rid of me for Mark Williams.
It's more awkward for Mark Williams though, isn't it? You think? Because the Hornets put out a whole damn press release about how excited they were to have Mark Williams back. What the fuck was that? I think it's way weirder for him.
Teams.
Damn.
We'll never know. What do teams do? Left us hanging. For those who
just
are
like that.
only
The comedic
there's
timing.
Alex.
He's
there's
back.
Alex. All right, what do teams
Comedic
do,
timing
Alex? You're back.
so good.
Alex, you're back.
Teams could put themselves in a lot better positions with fan bases if they would just shut up.
Mm-hmm. What do they do? Okay,
Shut
he's
up
back
just
again.
like that.
Yeah,
The
just
Hornets.
like that. Great.
Can you?
Yeah, you're good. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Now we can't hear him.
Oh my god, this is the shoot around, ladies and gentlemen.
Just wait.
God.
Nothing like a
The comedic
turn it off and
timing
turn it
is
back on
always
again.
good.
Brilliant. Yeah,
It
brilliant.
always cuts off at the perfect time. Just shut up. Dead.
Okay. I'm gonna try and get through it.
He's back.
The Hornets didn't have to say anything. They didn't have to say anything at all. They could have just let this completely die. And instead they're like, actually, we're thrilled to have it back.
Yeah.
We tried to trade him for this 25-year-old. But he's back. We're so excited, guys. It's like, you don't have to say anything. No one's making you. No one's making you say anything.
Kind of a year from hell for the Hornets after the whole PS5 thing. And now we have this. And I don't know, maybe LaMelo Ball's going to hit someone with his car or something. Maybe run over a pedestrian.
I can't believe it hasn't
What's the
happened
PS5
yet.
thing?
They said they gave a kid a PS5 at during one of those, timeout. Maybe it was at halftime or something. It was over Christmas. The kid's wish was like, I want a PS5 for Christmas. And the Hornets during the game were like, here's a PS5 on the Jumbotron. And then immediately when they cut the cameras, they took the PS5 back and were like, here's a hat or whatever they gave him. And then it went nuclear because why would you do that to a kid? And then they ended up giving him a PS5 and then like I gave him a bunch of merch. So I don't remember what it was, but yeah, so it's sort of a, that's why I'm saying usually these things, it's like celebrity deaths. They come in threes. What else do we know about the Hornets? Keep an eye on LaMelo Ball and his Escalade.
Dude, I am like 70% sure I encountered LaMelo Ball on the streets of Charlotte one time. Just because there was an impossibly expensive car that I'm just like, normal civilians aren't allowed to have this vehicle. You have to have multi-millions, and he driving like a fucking freak on the highway. And I was like, is that LaMelo Ball? He's the guy in town who's known for this.
I'm worried that if I saw I don't know who it would have to be, but if I saw somebody that was famous enough driving right next to me, I'm worried that I would purposely crash into them so that they would be forced to have a conversation with me.
Sorry, I just really wanted to meet you.
Yeah, like you're gonna sue me, you're gonna
fan.
sue the shit out of me, like whatever, all this, like I'm gonna lose. I'm in the wrong here, right? But you're Leonardo DiCaprio. He wouldn't be driving himself, but you know what I mean,
Right.
something like that.
Right.
I think I've upon staring at our tier list long enough, I've realized that there is one team that needs to move out of contention, or rather down to less than 0.1% chance after this trade deadline, and that would be the Atlanta Hawks. I think that's a
Yeah.
rational move.
Yeah.
I would even maybe with their
round picks. Second round picks for 2 core pieces. That's it.
Trey Young.
Core piece who's averaging 20 right now, having his best season after years of investment, and you trade him for 3 second-round picks and Georges Niang?
I think at this point, Trey Young might lead NBA history in like reluctant all-star appearances where he was not voted in, but then somebody gets hurt and they're like, all right, well, I guess Trey Young can get into the all-star game, which I think kind of stinks this year because this is the first year that I've not thought he's an asshole. I think he's actually kind of cool. I also love, I don't know if we've covered it on the show. This is a complete aside, but about Trey Young. I love that he keeps the Knicks thing going. Anytime he's in the Garden, he just turns into, I love that it doesn't have to just be the playoffs for him to like playing there and to embrace that rivalry. He just does it even if it's in the middle of December. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in a Hawks jersey next season.
No, but
After this deadline.
But how crazy is it that 8 months ago we were like, for sure he's a San Antonio Spur, and now you're like, what does it look like now?
I wanted him to be a Spur.
He's gonna go from a Hawk to a what? Where's he gonna go?
Is there a
That's a good segment. Come on, guys.
Are
you
Hawk Tua?
Oh,
Yeah.
Hawk Tua. I
got it.
Yeah,
I
nice.
got it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Nice.
It took a while for Hawk Tua to register for me.
A Hawk to a Raptor?
How about a King?
Maybe. That'd be funny. Yeah, maybe.
I almost think Trey Young's too good for the Raptors.
He's not long enough. He doesn't have the lengthy.
Right. He's a
lanky
normal-sized
build.
human being. They don't let that slide out there.
Let's spend the next 2 hours just thinking about where Trey Young could go in every single uniform. Let's just think about it. Like, is that
Minnesota Timberwolves?
the Rockets? Let's just name teams.
The Rockets make sense. They were in on the Fox sweepstakes.
Yeah.
I like the Timberwolves idea a little bit.
Do the Suns do something? They can't. They're handicapped so hard. There's nothing that they can do. Hey, can we just do this really, really quick? Really, really quick. And this is kind of for you, Alex. Jacob and I have talked about this. When are you guys going to bring KD home?
Okay. This is something I've thought a lot about. And the problem is, I think OKC would be open to it at this point. Kevin Durant he said positive things about Sam Presti, but he burned a lot of bridges with the city itself. And there's not really, like, he says a lot of things about a lot of positive things about the Supersonics. And it always kind of feels like a backhanded compliment to OKC, which I understand Seattle's the city that drafted him. But I mean, it was Presti that drafted him. And he's I think the fans would be open to it. I really don't know. Obviously, we're upset, but I don't know many fans who are still begrudgingly looking at Kevin Durant anytime someone's like, what if we traded for Kevin Durant? They're like, yeah, it would be pretty cool. It would be a cool moment. You look at the Raptors retiring Vince Carter's jersey and how emotional of a moment that was, even though there was some beef there. It's yeah, time heals all wounds, et cetera, et cetera. Kevin Durant is still an incredible player. I would love to have him in a Thunder jersey again. And it'd just be cool. It was 2016. I was 17 years old when Kevin Durant was traded. I was a kid. And I remember how much of an impact that trade had on me. That was one of my first big sports heartbreaks where I was I love this player and what he meant to the city. And when he left, it left a giant hole in my fandom. And now for him to come back would be just such a full circle moment, especially if it was to help us win a championship. It just would mean so much. And I mean, I welcome it, but I don't know. To me, it's starting to feel more and more he's 40 years old and signs a 1-year contract to do a retirement tour. And if that happened, that'd be cool. But in terms of actually being a part of the contending team now, we're kind of getting far down the road now where I'm I don't know if that'll happen. I would love if it did, though.
Yeah.
Well, at that point, by the time he's 40 or, whenever it's less, the Seattle might actually be a team again. So if anything, do you think he might just go there instead? It's funny to hear you talk about. Go ahead.
It's weird because I obviously can't put myself in his shoes, and I have more personal attachment to the city of Oklahoma City than I do the city of Seattle. I was an OKC Thunder fan. I wasn't a Seattle Supersonics fan. So to me, I look at that and I'm yeah, the Supersonics are the team that drafted you, but you played 10 years not 10 years. You played on, 6 or 7 years in OKC. He opened a restaurant in OKC and he embraced the city. And I get all players do this, but it was kind of before everyone was doing PR with their teams and going to help out at kids at orphanages and stuff like that. And it was before all of that was just a social media PR stunt. He was just doing it out of the kindness of his heart, or so it seemed. And I'm not saying that's not the case, but to me, it's I don't know how he could have, and I'm sure maybe he does, but I don't know how he could have more attachment to the Seattle Supersonics when the majority of his career was in an OKC Thunder jersey. It's you played 1 year of your career. I get they drafted you, but it was Presti that drafted you. It was the current Thunder organization that drafted you.
It's also where an expansion team will be when Durant's at that age. I just don't think it really makes sense. My whole thing is if I was Kevin Durant, I don't know if there is a better way to go out. I don't know if there is a better way to leave people with a positive opinion of you and your legacy of being I brought the championship to OKC. I didn't do it the way I thought I would, but it's happened. I'm a champion again, another ring on the books, and it's for OKC. It's just the best thing he can do from a legacy perspective. I think if he won 3 championships on another franchise from here, it wouldn't make as big of a difference as that would.
I think just to 2 things. One, to put a bow on this conversation. It's funny to hear, Alex, your perspective of the day that he signed with Golden State and how it was one of the worst moments of your fandom, your sports life. Brother, it was one of the best days of mine. It's crazy the contrast that was happening. I was fishing when the news broke. I caught a pike that day. Kevin Durant was a warrior. I'm like, dude, this is the best day of my life. But to start the process of putting a bow on this whole tier list and, talking about teams at the deadline and stuff, I think it's worth spending a minute. We talked a little bit about, we thought Trey Young was going to go to San Antonio. I know it was a little bit before the deadline. I don't remember if we've talked about it on the show or not, but now that De'Aaron Fox is in San Antonio, do you guys want to touch them in the tier at all in the tier list, or eh?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think they bump up a spot.
Yeah, I think 1.
I would have them a tier
pieces,
above those teams anyways.
Yeah, the pace that, or the pieces rather, around Fox and Wemby are serviceable. Like, you got guys who will hit their catch and shoots. Guys who will play decent enough defense. So like there is enough of a team around those two that I could see them having like a Western Conference Finals appearance if the right matchup came around.
Yeah. Can I make the case for Golden State?
I was gonna bring them up next, Alex. Go ahead.
Because I think it's a pretty easy case. And you don't have
Yeah.
to think too much about it. Yeah, you can look at, they got decent enough role players. But like, what if we get 2023 Miami Heat Jimmy Butler, or 2020 postseason run Jimmy Butler, where he just goes insane and like is doing complete takeover games, and like we get that psychopath competitor Jimmy Butler again. And I talked about this in the video that I just posted. Steph hasn't had, like, you look at the last time Steph really had like a strong shot creating, reliable go-to guy, it was Kevin Durant. It's been years. It's been 6 years or 7 years, however long it's been since he's had a guy that the Warriors can say, Steph, you go run around the floor, go crazy, like just keep guys moving, give the ball to Jimmy, and we're going to clear out and let him do his thing, and we'll probably set some off-ball screens for Steph. But like, Steph's never had this. Not never. He hasn't had this in this iteration of the Warriors. Like, yeah, you can look at Jordan Poole, but Jordan Poole is an entirely different. He's not even in the same stratosphere as what a postseason Jimmy Butler is. And so I look at this and I'm like, all right, yeah. Supporting cast, they don't have the same supporting cast as the Cleveland Cavaliers. They don't have the same supporting cast as an OKC Thunder. They don't have the same supporting cast as, I'll even say they probably don't have the same supporting cast as a Denver Nuggets. But Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry in a postseason setting, when you're getting postseason versions of each of them, that's a tough team to beat.
Yeah, what if you're getting,
and they're a top 10 defense.
What if you're getting 35-5 from Steph and 25-5-8 from Jimmy Butler, and they're playing great defense? Like, that's a team. And I would honestly put them in the potential contenders category, even more than just dark horse.
Whoa.
Because like, when I saw Jimmy Butler playing, I was like, yeah, he's 35. Everyone's been doing this thing where like, Jimmy's 35. We have no idea what he is. I liked what I saw. I think he looked like Jimmy fucking Butler out there. He looked like he can do the same shit that he has always done.
I don't know how to say this, but like, you'll know what I'm trying to say. Like, who were they playing, Jacob?
That's fair.
You know what I mean? And it's like, look, it's the NBA. So even if you play the worst team, like, you still look how you look. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but
I was just looking at it from a perspective of how it looks on the floor, how he looks when he's moving. He looks like he's moving like 29-year-old Jimmy Butler. He looked just fine. And it's specifically the fact that Golden State didn't give up real players, which is, other than Andrew Wiggins, which view it as a 1-for-1 swap. That's all good. Didn't give up real players. And then the dynamic, the yin to the yang with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's interior presence, Steph, 3-point guy. They operate in different areas of the floor, and it now allows Golden State to be way better driving to the rim way better just in general of rim pressure, and then also getting to the free throw line. Jimmy has shot double-digit free throws both games that he's played for the Dubs. And having just that ability to get free points consistently really, really, really matters, and it makes offense so much easier for the Dubs. And they're a good defense. The defense is not going to be a problem for them. So it's like, if this is enough of a punch to boost the offense to good, I still believe in Steph. That's the other thing, is we're not going, well, Jimmy carry job like the Heat days. It's like Jimmy can have a bad game here or there, and Steph Curry can fill that gap. So I would put them in potential contenders. I think they're just as much a potential contender as, the Lakers or Bucks would be.
Because the last time that the Lakers and the Warriors played about a week and a half ago, that was when LeBron had 40. So neither of these trades had happened yet. So when we run it back, you sounds like you're giving the edge to Golden State.
No, because the Lakers have the Luka factor.
Yeah.
The just having the clear. I do want to see Steph play as well as he has recently for a longer period of time, just before I'm being like definitive, like, oh yeah, Steph's right back in that top 5 player conversation, because he's been on pause from that conversation for a little bit. But if, that's the other thing. Steph is so empowered by Jimmy Butler being there, being able to play off ball more, not having as much pressure as the lone shot creator. It's making him a much better player. So it's like, you're getting the positive of Jimmy instead of Andrew Wiggins, and you're getting the positive of Steph with another option to take the defense's attention.
Now, before we, I don't know if anybody else had more thoughts on the Warriors, but I want you guys to make this decision. I think the Pistons right now belong in very dark horse. But if we revisit this in like 2 weeks, I might bump them, depending on how the rest of the month goes. You know what I mean? We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious where you guys are at right now.
It's funny you say that, because I was looking at the standings earlier today, just kind of looking for, what's interesting right now. And I was like, wait a second. Put my glasses on. I was like, the Pistons are the 6th seed.
You're rubbing your eyes like a goddamn Looney Tunes character.
Yeah.
They're the 6th seed.
We're the 6th seed.
Pistons.
We've been there. For like the last month, we've been kind of like teetering. We're in and out of there. It was very kind of the NBA to schedule the Pistons to play a back-to-back in Chicago. 2 free wins right before the All-Star break. That was very, very kind of them to do that.
Beat the brakes off of the Bulls yesterday.
Crazy. Go ahead, Alex.
You know what's really cool to me? The fact that the Pistons right now, you look at since January 1st. And just think about how long it's been since we've been able to pull out a stat like this for the Detroit Pistons. Hold on to your britches here. The Pistons right now are 14th in offensive rating with 115 points per 100 possessions, and they are 3rd in defensive rating since January 1st with 109.8 points allowed per 100 possessions. That is the 9th best net rating in the NBA since January 1st. The Detroit Pistons. They're 14-8. This is a good basketball team.
Yeah. My thoughts is just that I don't think it'll translate in the postseason as
not
well.
This year.
Not to be the
no,
Debbie
not
Downer.
this year. No.
But like, I wouldn't put them in dark horse for that reason. But they're damn good in the regular season. I think there needs to be a definitive, real second option before I'm like, we'll talk about them in the postseason.
What if Ivy was still playing? How would you feel about it then?
Probably still not.
Still the same? Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rudy. What do you got?
I think in order to dignify the Pistons' position in this list, we need to move some pretty excellent teams in dark horse down to very dark horse and kind of whittle it down that way.
The Suns are the first one that I'm looking at.
Really? Because they almost come back on the Grizzlies last night. I mean,
whatever.
Well, they are the Suns, though. If you want to move them down, I'm happy with it. Whatever. But to me, it was more like these teams on the right. But up to you guys.
The Magic have been weird lately. Magic have been really odd. Paulo's kind of had some bad games. They haven't looked as good with Paulo and Franz back as I would have thought.
I hate the Pacers
I'm-
now, so I'm gonna bump them, or drop them. But go ahead, Alex.
I think the Pacers, they've played really good basketball lately, but again, I think, they're weird this year because Tyrese Halliburton's he's got a bed that isn't, or he only sleeps well in his own bed, which, hey, same, brother, I understand. So the Pacers, I think you can have them in dark horse or very dark horse, but I agree with the Magic. The Magic are like concerning right now. And I don't know if you guys heard, this will kill 5 minutes or so. I don't know if you guys heard, but the general manager for the Orlando Magic was like, Brian Windhorst gave a report and he was like, yeah, the Magic, they don't call people about trades. If people call them, they'll have conversations about potential trades, but they don't try to reach out to anybody and make trades, like, at all. It's just not something they do. Which I'm like, you're kind of at the point in your rebuild and like as a competing team where like you should at least call about Cam Johnson, right? You should at least call about DeAndre Hunter, right? Just like give a call. You don't have to make an offer, but just like, hey, what do you guys think? Could we maybe do something? Like, is there something on our roster you want? That concerned me because I'm very anti like not being proactive as a general manager. Like, I think if there are upgrades that you can realistically make, you need to, it is your responsibility. It is your job to go out there and make them, or at least try to. It's called due diligence. And if you're not doing your due diligence as a general manager, then you are literally not doing your job. And that, for a team like the Magic, that concerns me.
Yeah, I'm not really. I kind of hate when a general manager or a front office has absolutism about any kind of thing. Like, they're like, we don't do trades, or we don't draft this type of player, X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, why? Why are you limiting yourself like that? Sometimes you need to make a fucking trade.
I don't know. It's exactly what you're describing has worked for Greg Popovich.
Greg Popovich and the Spurs are kind of an anomaly,
I guess,
because
Jason
Greg,
Tatum's the anomaly.
To me,
have you all heard that? Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of want to do the. I'll just do this real quick. But my thoughts on the Greg Popovich Spurs regime for the last 20 years is that Greg has operated like a college coach in the NBA with a level of authority that just no other head coach has at all. Because he's also like, he's the guy who hired the GM. So he's like, yeah, the GM is in my pocket. He'll listen to what I have to say. And I think the whole Kawhi Leonard thing went the way that it did because he was like, I'm not about that. I'm not doing this. You are my dictator. You determine everything type shit. So it worked when he was very specific about the personnel. But that's, to me, like the Spurs and Greg, that's a whole other thing.
You know what's kind of become a lost archetype of guy in the NBA is because it doesn't work, that's why, the head coach and president of basketball operations guy. When you get to do both. Like Stan Van Gundy got to do that for us, and it did not work at all.
Yeah.
Although he did get us
really
Blake
work.
Griffin. But that was because
really
Tom
work
Gorse put a
when,
gun to his head. But yeah.
It was at Tibbs in Minnesota as well that was kind of wacky.
That sounds right.
Not good. I think there's like too much of a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably hard to see the forest for the trees or whatever the expression is. Like, you're probably too close.
The relationship
you're not going to have as much.
right.
You're not going to have as much of. You're also not going to have as much of a long-term mentality as the coach that the GM should have.
I don't know. I think Nico's sentiment of, when I say the future, I'm not talking 10 years from now. I'm talking 3-4 years from now. I actually think that is probably more common among
I thought
GMs.
it was crazy he said that out loud. I don't.
That's saying the quiet part out loud.
I was like, I understand why you have that perspective because the job you have is not one that's guaranteed you're going to be there for a long time. But at the same time, if that's your mentality and you're don't tell people that you think that. That's if I heard my GM was like, yeah, who gives a fuck about the future? I'll do everything for the next 3 years. I'm like, okay, I'm ringing some fucking alarm bells.
I don't know, man. Like, and I'm not justifying this move at all. I think this guy should be, I don't want to say that because we'll have to bleep it, but like it's unjustifiable. There's no way where this is like a good thing that happened, but I don't think it's that crazy because like if Trajan Langdon came out today and said, for the next 3 to 4 years, we are going to do everything in our power to win a championship, and whatever happens after that, I don't fucking care as long as we win a championship. That's why I'm a fan, brother, is because I want to see them win a championship. Like, you think about the Los Angeles Rams and how they mortgaged their entire future to win a Super Bowl, and they did it. And then they've actually kind of picked up the pieces and have since been able to figure it out. Hold on. And so I don't think that piece of it is that crazy that like, 10 years from now, we're going to suck, but by the end of the decade, we're going to win a championship. Fuck that. Who cares? Go win a ring. You know what I mean?
There's a time and a place, and this one was not it.
I get, yeah. To say it in that moment for sure is crazy, but it's the logic that I don't have a problem with.
Right. I don't have a problem with the logic. I just don't say that out loud. You just can't do that. That's crazy.
Well, also, it was just like a very contradictory statement because it's like we're going to do everything in our power to win a championship by trading away the player that just took us to the NBA Finals.
Right. And would also be, it doesn't matter. We're all on the same page. Everybody in the world is on the same page with us. Hey, I don't know. For Jacob and Alex, Jacob, I've seen you put out some videos on the Luka stuff, and Alex, I'm sure you have. They haven't popped up in my algorithm. I'm not gonna bullshit. You have not.
I don't know how that happens. Everyone's like,
so
Alex, I forgot you were making videos. I'm like, that's weird. I still am.
Are you guys slowly getting comments trickling in of the well actually bitches who are like, I don't hate this for the. Are you starting to see that a little bit?
There's always gonna be an well actually bitch. I just don't think I've seen not an overwhelming amount. Not the level in which there are for other trades where you go, that was stupid. This is a trade where I think everyone was like, okay, yeah, that was stupid. They still exist. Absolutely.
I do not believe that you are justified in having an opinion that is not the hive-minded zeitgeist. I think you are insane, and I think you are a pick-me-ass bitch. There is one take on this whole thing, and if you stray from that, you're wrong.
The one thing that's getting me is people being like, oh my God, stop talking about it. No. This is the most crazy shit that ever happened. People are like, I uploaded the reaction to his first game and the dude was like, oh, you're just going to keep milking this. I was like, you're damn fucking right. I'm going to keep milking this.
Like, you're never going to see something like this again. And if you do, God help that GM. Like, if we've learned like how to do have you guys been seeing the people getting thrown out of the Mavs games for like having signs or for getting, being put on the Jumbotron and like mouthing fire Nico, like shit like that? Yeah. Which also Mark Cuban had some comments on that. And he said that the Mavs were justified in doing that. It was like a safety issue. What are you talking about? Not for Nico, but for other fans. He's like, it's the same reason that we don't allow political shirts in our arena. What are you talking about, brother?
Just want to fully minimize the possibility of mass hysteria to 0 instead of anything above 0.
They should have stormed the court.
The Mavericks fans need to stage a coup and
Jacob, where were you on January 6th?
I'm like, that's way more justified storming of a place than the Capitol.
That's the craziest thing is like, I don't think of like you, as Nico Harrison, you created generational trauma. Thousands of people will walk away from being a fan of your franchise for the rest of their lives. And somehow I just don't think the response has been proportionate to what we actually saw. I want to say something short of like somebody needs to get killed, but like that's the only thing that I can think. I don't know how you react to this in a way that is appropriate while also keeping people safe.
Right. In my mind, I was like, normally I'm always the dude hitting the "this is just basketball" button. It's not that
it's
deep.
Bigger than that.
This is not just basketball. It is deeper than that.
Yeah. So just for the panel, I don't know if anybody, we can officially wrap up on this. I don't know if you guys have had the opportunity to, in your individual videos, Rudy, also you, what were you doing when you found out?
I was laying in bed. I was getting ready to go to sleep. And
so you were still awake, live in real time.
Yeah, Rudy called me. He was like, I was like, Rudy, I'm going to sleep. Leave me alone. And he was like, you don't understand, brother. You're getting out of bed right now.
I think I literally said code red in text. Like I FaceTimed him. I was at a restaurant me and my partner were trying out a place we'd never been before. Had a fun little date. Super relaxed, uneventful though. And then between handing the card to the waiter and getting it back to sign for the tip and go, I got notification, or the the bad app notification that was like, Shams tweets that Luka Doncic is getting traded. And I was like, okay, that can't be real. And all the comments were like, hacked. Can't believe they're tweeting, notifying me of a hack thing. Check on Twitter. Just doing my own little investigation work. People are like, they're talking about it on ESPN. I think it's real. Shams is like, this is real. Here's the details. And I'm like, I gotta call Jacob. I can't believe I gotta work today.
I can't emphasize enough. If the trade went down 15 minutes later, wouldn't have happened. I'd have been out. And he wouldn't have been able to get me out of bed, because when I'm asleep, I'm not getting out of bed for 8 hours.
I was like, you don't understand. I'm coming to your house if you don't.
Yeah.
I don't have a very interesting story. I went to bed at like 9:30 and I woke up. And
Waking
I was
up to it had to have been crazy. Yeah, dude. I was like glad that didn't happen, because I would have been like, I'm still asleep. This is a dream.
I wake up, it's like 5, maybe 5:30 in the morning, and my son woke up. And so I'm like getting us ready to like start the day, and I go to the bathroom and I sit down. I always sit down to pee, especially in the morning. It's just more comfy. So
Same.
I sit down and I pull my phone out, and my girlfriend had texted me at like 1:30 in the morning. And she, all caps, Luka is a Laker. And the reason she's like, I didn't want to wake you up. So she had to like wake up in the middle of the night, with our son. And while she was feeding him, whatever, she's just scrolling through her phone. So that's how she saw it. She's like, I didn't want to wake you up, which is good that she didn't. I would have been awake the rest of the night. So I, like Rudy, I just do my due diligence. I go to Reddit. Holy shit, this is real. I basically have the same story as all of you. But Alex, I also woke up to this. I immediately I'm like, I just like everybody else. And then I watched the Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo emergency pod. And then here's the most interesting, which they crushed it, dude. They were brilliant. Ryan was good. But did you also find yourself consuming content from people that you've never heard of in your entire life? Like talking about this because you just needed to hear more takes on the whole thing? I don't watch that much NBA content. I must have watched 24 different creators talk about this whole thing, because there are just so many takes to this thing. The essence of what everybody was saying was the same, but it's the way that we get to those takes is different. I watched every piece of content on this that I could find.
Yeah. It was truly basketball 9/11 happened. I'll
never forget. I remember where I was vividly, and I always will.
You'll never forget where you were. Just to actually end this in the way we were supposed to, let's just quick fire through a couple of these teams. Do we need to move? The Rockets still stay in dark horse, I think. How do we feel about the Clippers?
Clippers' record doesn't reflect it, but they are one of the best teams in the NBA still. They've just lost a couple close games in the past 45 days.
They also just got Bogdanovich for nothing. He's been bad this year, but maybe he'll turn it around. So that's another ball handler there. That's nice. They also added Ben Simmons for what that's worth. So I think they stay in dark horse. I don't really think anyone in the 0.0 chance pops up. Maybe the Raptors. Maybe the Raptors move into very dark horse.
No.
What are you?
The Brandon Ingram trade doesn't move you?
If anyone's going to move out of 0.1%
Not even a little
chance to very dark horse, it's the Trailblazers, because they've lost like 2 games in the past month and a half or some shit like that.
That's true. They're just outside of the play-in now.
Chauncey
I might bump them to very dark.
Chauncey has been such a huge culture guy for that locker room, and like just a big time like accountability guy. Unrelated, love the hashtag Sixers are over party. Been really fun to see. So the day that we're taping this, we're less than 24 hours removed from Joel Embiid having, the Red Sea parted. If he wanted to take the 3, he could have taken the 3. Yeah. You guys seen this? You heard about this?
Yes, very Ben Simmons-like moment.
I don't know how. It was the most inexplicable thing I've ever seen Joel Embiid do, and then he just gets booed and a bunch of shit thrown at him. I'm like, you guys just won the Super Bowl. Fuck off. Is it over for Embiid? I don't want to spend another hour on here, but are we done? At least for this year.
I don't know. I think the fact that Paul George is bad. Like they put
Mhm.
a lot of stake in that move being the move, and it's
Who
not.
invested more into Paul George and regrets it more, the Sixers
The s-
or the
The
Clippers?
The Clippers did.
You know whose investment has turned out to be the best because this is the only thing that he's good at anymore? Wave Sports and Entertainment.
Is
more
starting is a
YouTube
player
shorts, right?
starting a podcast a form of quiet quitting?
There you go.
Yep. Yep. You say, I'm going to start investing in my next
I
career.
really do think doing a podcast while you're playing is a little crazy. I sure as shit wouldn't do that in their shoes.
And just to be clear for those of you, because nobody on the panel, I don't think you guys understand. Wave is they're the ones who employ Paul George to do the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, nod in
Yeah.
your head. Okay. On the same page.
All right.
That round 2 funding kicked in and they said, let's blow it all on Paul George.
I don't know, man. Motherfuckers get a Series B and fire all of the hardworking people, and then just give it all to the athletes who have more money than God. And then some people try to tell them, hey, that's not original. Oh well, it's still. This is neither here nor there. I think this was a good episode, fellas, and we'll see you all next week.